the parts of JMP we'll be discussing today combine data access and data blending and cleaning. And while JMP imports many types of data, we're only going to focus on importing Excel worksheets. The goal of this session is to show you that this process is not daunting, but in fact very simple and can be done with just a few clicks. So those of you that are looking to it, it's a very simple process. Before we get started with importing, it's important to briefly discuss the difference between Excel worksheets and JMP data tables. Most of us are already familiar with Excel to some extent, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but as you can see here in this example, the spreadsheets do not necessarily need to be structured, and there can be multiple worksheets. JMP data tables are built for statistical analysis and data exploration. So they follow a clear structure. Columns represent variables, and rows represent observations. So when you import data into JMP, JMP expects this structure. Okay, and finally, we're going to be working in the Excel import wizard, and we'll do some things in the wizard and then in JMP. So the first data set I'd like to import, and let's start with a very basic data set, is about production. And first, I'm going to show you what it looks like before we get into it. And this is our final result. And we have our column with their names, so we call them column headers. And we have our rows here. And I know I can look down here and see I have 6 columns, if I don't want to count, and 37 rows. I'm going to go ahead and close that. And one bit of advice I was given when I started importing is to open the Excel file first and decide how I want the data to look in the final JMP table. I think that's key, is knowing what it will look like, what I want the data to look like will help me when I import the data. And so I have it open here. We're working on pay to production. And this is the first worksheet that will open. And I can first see what I'm thinking here is I'm looking for I'm thinking about JMP structure. So I'm looking for column names and then observations are my rows. And then I'm looking for stuff that I'm not really wanting to use and keep. And so I just because it's so easy, I know that this is going to be our columns and the column names. And I know here is going to start where our data actually starts, so our rows. And another bit of advice I was given is keep this open if you have 2 windows or not. If you can keep this open or go back to it, it'll help you with this in the import as well. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. And then once I'm ready, from the home window, I will select File from the menu bar and select Open. I'll select the file I have, but I want to point out if you don't see the file, make sure to check in the bottom right corner. This is called a Files of Type drop-down menu. And if you don't see it or you want to change your files, you just click on the down arrow and you find your file. And just as a side note, these are all the file types that JMP can import into JMP, that it can be imported into JMP. And so I'm just going to click on Data Files. I've got my file selected and click Open. Now, the first thing that happens is the Excel import wizard automatically opens by default. The first thing I'll do is go to the bottom here at this Restore Default Settings and select it. That's every time I open up this, I'm going to do that. And I do this because JMP remembers what I did the last time I imported a file, even after I close JMP. So it just resets everything. So let's take a brief tour of the Excel import wizard. We'll take a general tour, and then I'm only going to show you just the parts of the Excel import wizard we need right now. And as we continue importing data, I'll point out additional features as they become relevant. So let's start up here on the right. And this is the worksheet section. So it shows me the worksheets that come with the file that I imported. And when they're all highlighted, and they'll all be highlighted when you select that button, it means that when you're ready to select the import button, every worksheet will open. So just be aware of that. And I've done this several times where I've just wanted to work on one, and I forget to select it, and they all pop up. So it's actually kind of amusing, but I won't do it. And for this example, we're going to use the potato production. So I'll select that. We go to the left here. We have the data preview button. And the data preview lets you look at your data to understand its layout once you import it into JMP. I go further down to the individual worksheet settings. And this lets you control and customize how each worksheet is imported into JMP. And so let's get started. So we looked at the data sheet, the Excel worksheet that we looked at. We knew that country was going to be the line with country and the years will be our column headers. So I'm going to go down here to this column headers under the worksheet settings. And I know it's the next row. It's going to be the second row. And I'm just going to select the box and type in 2 and hit an enter. And it automatically bumps up that row into the column headers. But I also know that the country and all the data from the country start on this line. So I'll go down here to data starts on row, right here. And I'm just going to select this up until I go to row 1. Remember, row 1 is the first line of data in JMP, and then this is our column headers. And then I'm done. Simple, that's it. I'm going to select this import at the bottom right and click. And we have our final result right here. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and close that. And we won't save anything. I've already got it saved. So one of the cool things about JMP is files that you open, it will save them in the home window on your recent files. And so every time I go into this, and this is the only worksheet I'll use, I'll be able to just double click this and it'll pop up. But first, let's do what I said and go back into our Excel data sheet. Our next one is this disorganized set. And I'm going to show you that we can two things. First, we can copy and paste from Excel into JMP. And second, we're going to go through the wizard and I'm going to show you the differences between copy paste and using the wizard. So in this data sheet, I know that the data that I want to import in is right here. And so I can just select it. If I just want to do a copy paste, I'm going to go ahead, Control C, and then we're going to go back into JMP, minimize that. And then I'm going to go File, New, Data Table. And instead of Control V, I'm actually going to go to Edit and click on Paste with Column Names. And that's it. That's all you have to do when you do copy paste. So we're going to minimize that, but now we're going to go back into our Excel file and do it in the wizard. So I'll click this open, back to restore default settings. And then I'm going to click on the worksheet disorganized. And so I already know, and again, my Excel worksheets, I'm looking at it, so I know that here is where my column headers start. And I'm going to do this button now. So I love this green button where I can select the row that the column headers are on, and I'll just push plus, and it automatically bumps it up. I can look at a few things here while I'm doing this. I know that I don't want the data to start here. on this column. I actually want it to start here. So I'm going to go down to this new one that says data starts on column. And again, I'm just going to use this plus button. It's my favorite on here. I'll just go ahead and push plus and it bumps it over. We're going to use the next button to see some more worksheet settings. And I'm going to look at here and I see data ends with row and data ends with column. So I see that I have an extra column. I don't want that. So I'm just going to select that extra column. And again, plus button. And I know my data ends here. So I'm going to select it here, go down, and push the plus button. And that's it. I'm done. I'm importing it. And here we have both of our data sets, the same data set. The difference is when you use the Excel worksheet, it links it to that when you use the Excel wizard, it links it back to the worksheet. So I have a source here, and I have this JSL script that's all running behind. And so if I was a scripter, a JSL person, I could go in here and manipulate things and whatnot, but I don't need to, and I don't want to, but I wanted to show you. And also a cool thing is if you updated your table and saved it, you don't have to go into Excel anymore. All you have to do is push this green button and it automatically updates. In the copy, you don't see that here. It's not linked back. And so there's pros and cons, and I'm not telling you one's a pro and one's a con. I'm just showing you the differences. I personally use the Excel because of a lot of things and because of this, the wizard.